Hey, this is Senator Justin Reedy coming to you at the end of the fourth full week of the 2023 General Assembly session. You're probably wondering why I'm in my car and not in my office. We recorded a video last night and the sound didn't work. So I'm actually back in Carroll County today. We didn't have floor sessions or committee sessions today on Friday. So I had some meetings here. I actually just finished visiting one of the great private schools in our county for St. John's Catholic for Catholic Schools Week, National Catholic Schools Week. And it was really nice to be able to come and see what they do here. And I wanted to take a minute to go ahead and record at least somewhat of a weekly update. It's a little less official than it normally is. The big news this week was Wes Moore, Governor Wes Moore's first State of the State address in Annapolis. We, governors give a State of the State address once a year, just like they do a State of the Union address in Congress, the president does. And it's a traditional thing, and the speech generally tends to be, maybe 45 minutes or so, and go over what the governor was going to prioritize in the legislative session and also in the next year of his administration. And, there were things that he talked about and laid out that I think most people can agree with. I certainly agree with. Talked about wanting to serve calling people to do service, especially young people, to serve our state and do acts of service, which I, of course, totally think is a great thing. Not sure we need a state level agency to conduct that. And that was one of the things he's proposing. But I certainly agree with the call to service. Governor Moore also talked about how we can do better helping our veterans, which I totally agree with. He wants to reduce, among other things, he wants to reduce the retirement taxes on veterans' retirement income. He wants to raise that to $40,000, up to $40,000 a year of exemption. I agree with that, but it's interesting. The rationale that the governor used is that when you reduce taxes on retired veterans and they stay here in the state and don't leave, that we actually get greater economic and financial benefit than the tax dollars we would have gotten by keeping the taxes where they were. And I said, yes, you're right. So why don't we extend that logic to getting rid of retirement taxes, or continuing to dramatically reduce retirement taxes on all retirees? I support doing it for veterans, of course, but we should do it for all retirees because the logic extends to all retirees that stay. They invest in our state and in our communities, not only financially, but they also, as Governor Moore correctly pointed out, retired veterans and retirees in general give back tremendously in our communities. They volunteer, they serve. So there's an incalculable value with keeping our retirees here in Maryland. So I hope to find common ground with Governor Moore and his administration, not just on the veterans issue, which of course we do agree on, but also on how we can further extend retirement tax breaks for all retirees, so we can keep all of our treasured seniors and retirees here in Maryland. The governor talked about wanting to have world-class, the best schools in America. Well, who wouldn't stand up and applaud for wanting to have the best schools in America? I believe very strongly we want to have the best education in Maryland, in the United States. But I know, and education is not a one-size-fits-all approach with just public schools. It's an all-of-the-above approach. And so, unfortunately, while Governor Moore talks about wanting to create more opportunity, he talked a lot about lifting children out of poverty, which, of course, we want to try to get people, particularly children, out of poverty. He talked a lot about that. It's a great goal. But one of the things that he did in his budget, while he increased funding for public schools, he actually took out about 20% of the funding, 25% of the funding that they've set aside in the Boost program to allow people who are less fortunate, lower income students to be able to go to a private school, particularly if their school is failing. So he actually reduced money in the budget for that. That goes against the idea of creating greater opportunity for our students and for our young people. So I'm hoping we can actually get that money perhaps restored in the budget. There is a process where we could do that. So while I support wanting to improve our public schools, I also know my wife is a school teacher. My children go to Carroll County Public Schools. I'm for supporting public schools, but we also know that we need to have an all-of-the-above approach to education, not just looking at how we can increase spending, but how can we get better results and outcomes, have better accountability, and yes, recognize that not everybody that's not a fit for everybody. So that was some interesting things that came out of the governor's State of the State address. As I said, there were some things that I agreed with, and there were some things that I disagreed with. One disappointment I would say that I had was the governor really didn't mention anything about crime at all. He made one brief sort of allusion to people wanting to be safe in their communities. But other than that, there were no specifics about how we're going to get a grip on the violent crime that is really hurting the Baltimore region, Baltimore City in particular. I was hoping he would come out and embrace some of the policies that not just me or not just Republicans are pushing, but a lot of more and more Democrats are recognizing too, elected officials, particularly the state's attorney in Baltimore City, that we need to go after repeat violent offenders, and we need to go after people who are caught trafficking with illegal guns and make sure they have serious jail time. Because a lot of the crime that happens in Baltimore and the surrounding region is perpetrated, a lot of the violent crime anyway, is perpetrated by people who have repeatedly been arrested, many times for multiple violent offenses, and they haven't spent hardly any time or any time in jail. So we need to be sure that we're putting away people. We want people to have a second chance when they've committed like a nonviolent offense. We're all for people having a second opportunity. We're all for people, some 15-year-old steals a car or something. We're not going to throw the kid in jail for 20 years. But when someone has multiple times hurt someone on purpose, especially using firearms illegally, that needs serious jail time. So I was disappointed that we didn't get more from the governor on that. I'm hoping that he has made some comments like he might be open to those policies, hoping that we can work on that. But that was, I think, a missed opportunity. There's a lot more I could get into about what happened this week. We're starting to submit legislation and officially filing it. I'll have some news about that coming in the early part of next week with bills related to tax policy, parents' rights, crime, and some other things that I'll be able to send more information, specific bill numbers out about. I look forward to updating you then, and sorry for the informality of doing this in my car, but I hope this update is helpful to you. Please feel free to reach out to me anytime I can be helpful to you, and look forward to talking to you again next week. God bless, and have a great weekend.